When it comes to dating a member of the opposite sex, you have to be a little bit bad. I'm reflecting on something I said a couple of videos ago, where I said good people don't act on their impulses, whereas bad people do act on their impulses. Now, if you were to take a very moralistic approach to that, not acting on your impulses can prevent you from jumping over a cliff without looking, whereas bad people typically will respond to the first thing that comes to their mind. For example, if they're having an argument with their partner, they don't separate themselves from their thoughts or their opinions. They blame and attack their partner for having some type of misalignment with them. If they're a creep, they will stalk or harass or do something really bad. This is called intrusive thoughts, these things. Bad people act on and fantasize on their intrusive thoughts and much more extreme variations of them. Whereas good people just recognize them as impulsive thoughts. If you're walking down the street and you see someone beautiful, your first instinct is to be like, damn, yeah, he or she's real hot. I would love to fuck her. But you know that's kind of not realistic or feasible. And you know, surely, that acting on that impulse alone could land you in some serious trouble. That's why these people who are laughing and mocking Charlie Kirk's death are facing the consequences of their actions, because they're now on the brunt end of the stick, where acting upon their impulses has gotten them in hot water. Personally, I don't feel sorry for those people who landed themselves in hot water. They had it coming. And maybe some of those people might learn that evil isn't a place that you would like to act upon. It's not something that you want to manifest, surely. Now, if you recall at the start of this video, I said that you probably should be a little bit bad, and this is healthy for your relationships. You might think that sounds a little bit crazy, but I say it's actually necessary. The difference is that when it comes to being just a little bit bad, it means just bending the rules just a little bit. Being a bad boy or a bad girl just a little bit. Some people are sweethearts. Some people are good. But sometimes these people who are good are also trapped by society. People will self-edit themselves to people please other people. And this is what I mean by be a little bit bad. It's okay to kind of occasionally get someone rolled up a little bit. It's okay to get your romantic interest rolled up just a little bit. It's okay to flirt appropriately, just a little bit. Not too overkill, not too placidly, but just the right amount. You've got to be just a little bit bad. That might not sound right when I first introduced the idea of acting upon your impulses, because that's what dumb people do. But smart people who recognize those intrusive thoughts separate those away, and they look for opportunities instead to do things that are beneficial to themselves and beneficial to the other party. That's the big difference we're leaning in here. And then when they see those opportunities, they may take the opportunity to act on those opportunities, should they present themselves. For example, if you were to get a copy of my Love Triangle course, where I show you how to meet people in real life instead of scrolling through Tinder and Hinge and wasting years of your life, you would know that you need an appropriate reason to be hanging out together. So, I'll share an example with you. When I saw an attractive young lass at a coffee stand, I felt compelled enough to want to invite her out on a date. I was successful in inviting her out for a date. She really liked my approach. Long story short, when we went on the date, we weren't right for each other, but I was successful in attracting her and inviting her to agree to the date. It wasn't some creepy, how can I make her do this? It was like, you know what, I like her. Does she like me? Let's find out. Be a little bit playful. Nudge that little playfulness in there. If she asks me, which she did, can I get your number in regards to, the coffee order number? I was like, sure, here's my number. Can I get yours? That was my way of flirting and showing interest. It wasn't creepy. It wasn't over the top. It was just right. And if you were to follow the Love Triangle framework, then it's very clear as to why this became so easy for me. There was something else going on behind the scenes. The coffee, the service, the whole point of being there. I wasn't trying to force a connection. However, forcing a connection is what can ruin the date. Trying to force the other party, let's say you've gone through a breakup or something, and you're trying to get sympathy out of them, that's kind of repelling. You know what's even more repelling? Let's say you already get into a relationship with said person, or you've already been in a relationship for some time, maybe even a year or plus, a couple of years, who knows? And guess what you do? When the other party is showing some type of sign of disinterest or pulling away or withdrawal, you start to have these images pop up in your mind. And you don't separate yourself from them. And do you really believe that your partner is really a narcissist when they pull away? Obviously, they might not be paying attention to in the way that you imagine or would like. That's valid. That's fair. But are they really a villain? Those intrusive, impulsive, negative thoughts that pop up, whether or not they're actually true, there is another side of the story that we may be ignoring. It would be wrong of us to act on our impulses and our intrusive thoughts that pop up as a result of seeing whatever the other party does. The other party, whatever they do, it could be disproportionate. But is that a reason or an excuse for us to also behave in a disproportionate manner, to return fire with fire, to succumb to our own intrusive thoughts and make judgments and assumptions about the other party? Because what you see them as and what you label them as is what they shall become. If you label them or see them as a villain, so they shall become. To wrap your head around this, put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, what would it take for me to start changing the dynamics from their end? What would it take for me to say yes or no? What would it take for me to see things differently? Sometimes all it takes is a lot of thawing away at the heart. Maybe your partner has someone in their life who died and they're grieving. I have never personally experienced loss of life and grieved that, but I have felt very similar grief in relation to other things. How do we know that our romantic interest or partner is not feeling some type of grief or loss and they have no idea that that's what even they're feeling? And we're so occupied and fixated on getting the affection that we want out of them when they're not in a position that enables them to give it to us. And then, to make it worse, we act on our intrusive impulses and start labeling them and judging them. And you can see this cycle gets worse and worse, and it compounds and it explodes into a volcano. Now, of course, this is also true for the opposite spectrum. If you're a goody two-shoes and you are constantly self-editing yourself and people-pleasing and you're trying to be a good puppy in a sense, you kind of don't have any backbone. Your partner's not going to be particularly happy with that. You have to have a little bit of backbone. And this is why I say you've got to be a little bit bad. You've got to break the rules just a little bit. Because here's the thing. If you're going way too bad, overkill, it's not helping. If you're too goody two-shoes and you're placid and you're easily a pushover, sometimes even escalating to the point of being overly assertive out of nowhere, is that really going to help? We have to be just a little bit bad. One way we can be just a little bit bad is potentially setting boundaries. Now, I actually am not the person you would want to go to ask for advice on boundaries, but upon reflection of my own life experience and just something that's happened more and more recently is that boundaries are actually something where you set the stage. I always say you cannot impose the boundaries on the other party. Boundaries are something that you impose on yourself. And when it comes to the other party engaging with you, what you do is you set the stage. So sometimes when people are on a phone call with me, I let them know what to expect. This is what kind of setting the boundaries means. You let the other person know what to expect coming from your end. And this should not be used as a means to threaten the other party, to threaten them that you're going to pull away, that you're going to end the phone call, that you're going to label them or tell their friends about how you feel or escalate things disproportionately yourself. And this is kind of why things can get out of control very quickly, actually. Because boundaries aren't supposed to be things that you control the other party with. They're supposed to be like safe rails, safeguards, that if you start to drift too much to the left, you will bump into the wall and you'll sort of bounce back to the middle of the road. Same thing if you lean too much to the right, you bounce back into the middle of the road. It's supposed to act as a guide. That's what boundaries are supposed to be. They're supposed to be a guide for you to be able to traverse through conversation and navigating things so much easier. Let there be a guide and be a little bit bad about it.